Before I get into the review, I want to state that a friend of mine worked on the film, so if you think that has had any influence on it, you can take that into consideration when I'm talking about the movie. A while ago, I was contacted to check out this movie called Anonymous Killers. It's a low-budget horror crime film that is part CSI and part Saw. The movie's about a bunch of anonymous killers, contract killers, and other evil people that are captured by someone even more evil, a big overlord who locks a bunch of them into a room and has them judge each other for their crimes. Through a series of flashbacks, we see what led each person to becoming a killer. Each one had a more or less sad series of events that made them choose this life. They tell their stories, and the others have buttons to either save or condemn them. They're all admitted killers except for one guy who swears he's innocent. It's an interesting movie that was better than I was expecting. I watched the trailer, and honestly, I thought it was going to be terrible. It did start out rough, though. Through a montage, we're introduced to each killer as they're captured and brought to the judgment room, I guess you could call it. Really, the whole sequence could have been removed. We didn't need to see it. It didn't bring anything to the film besides padding the runtime. They could have started right at the point where they were all brought into the room and the super bad guy explains why they're there. It would have been better. The intro just kind of dragged, and I kept thinking how I hoped it would get better, which thankfully it did. Each of the characters were interesting, and the major red herring they threw in was obvious, but I didn't mind it too much. I'm not going to spoil it, but really, most of you will figure it out in about the first 10 minutes. I like the different characters, and even the evil ringleader. I didn't think there was a particularly bad actor in the bunch. They all were fairly competent. I like the woman in black the most. Her story was the most interesting and sad. Lots of CG blood splatter, which, I'm sorry, just doesn't look as good as Squibs. Although with the industry continuously moving in that direction, it's something I gotta make peace with, I guess. There was a big surprise, and this is the part that made me think of Saw. Towards the end, when judgment has been cast, the ones who were guilty were all put into various torture devices that eviscerated them. I was not expecting it, and while it was shocking, it made me laugh at how over the top it was. I was thinking to myself that, oh yeah, this is gonna get them an NC-17. I spoke to the director, and as it turned out, there was a 2-second scene they had to cut of a guy getting his throat slashed, and then they were able to get an R. I'm really surprised. Maybe it's because the ending is so cartoonishly violent they let it go. The ratings board is so all over the place, who knows these days? Anonymous Killers is a neat little movie that isn't trying to be anything spectacular. It's a character study of a group of killers, each trying to explain why they do what they do and why they aren't to blame for being the way they are. If you can get past the first 10 or 15 minutes, you'll be in for a cool little crime film with a pretty ridiculously violent ending. It's currently available for streaming, so if it sounds interesting, check it out.